Hello, welcome to another episode of Comprehending Consciousness. My name is Allie with Amory Speaks, and I created this series as a hope-fueled bridge, I guess I'll call it today, for those who are kind of new to the 3D realm, new to waking up, new to spirituality, or finding themselves or their path. This is hopefully a segment of videos, continuous and ongoing, that I am working to offer as small bits of informational, kind of educational, even topics of, that we commonly see used in this new age conscious community, those of us who are kind of on the ascension path or the path of enlightenment, however you like to look and call that. It takes many forms. It is, multidimensional, multifaceted. It is infinite in its creation, just as we are. And so, the series is ongoing. I have 33 other episodes so far already done. This is number 34. And I touch on what I like to call iceberg terms. And basically, I term them that, or I designate them that, because they are like the tip of the iceberg. And what I'm doing here, like I say in so many episodes right at the start, is I'm kind of giving you my tour of this iceberg and saying, this is what I have to offer for you. These are some common misconceptions or some obstacles, little trip-ups and lies that I see a lot. On the edges and on that surface, superficial kind of level. And then I offer you the gear, basically. The motivation and the wisdom that there is a huge mass of this iceberg sitting underneath the water. You know, the underbelly of a lot of these things that I'm talking about are massive, and they are infinite in choices of discovery. So each one of us finds our own personal, individual information and data input as we dive underneath and we look around and we catalog what we're seeing and we feel our reactions and responses and things. We each are meant to do that dive on our own, by ourselves, because it impacts us individually. And your every moment building up to that day that you go and dive under and do some exploration, it gives a different walk up to that day. You have a different body of knowledge that you are holding each time that you take that dive, so to speak. So it's at the start here that I like to kind of clear the ground and offer a wide understanding and a very obvious, clear path of what I'm offering here. You know, this is by no means an end-all be-all definitions. This is not, this is right, this is wrong. Think this way, don't think that way. Or, don't think this, and this, because of this and this, please think this. That is not my intentions, and I really work consciously and actively to be mindful of my words and my descriptions to hopefully hold space for that and give off a real vibe of openness and transparency and honesty. And so with that in mind and said here, I'll bring in my topic for episode 34, which is spiritual bypassing. Now this term has been created and sort of presented out to the collective in a couple of different ways. And perhaps if you are not approaching the borders, or you're not within the conscious community already, you might not even have heard this spiritual bypassing term. But if you are, on the fence line, if you're sitting watching or you're taking part over here, in the conscious community, in any sort of spiritual realms, the metaphysic realms, you will hear a lot of these spokespeople, the influencers, those people who are presented above the collective within the media, within social media, and within any of these like matrix setups, right? We see a lot of these people talking now, bringing up this phrase, spiritual bypassing. I do believe it's, as all things, it's an organic function and flow, like the seasons, and that we ride them, that we notice them and we go with them. You know, like the tide as well. A surfer, you know, a surfer doesn't create the waves, and a surfer doesn't watch and think that he's, you know, playing an active role in what kind of waves are coming. You know, there's kind of this spiritual knowing of how small you are when you're a surfer out there in the ocean, and that you ride the waves that come, and that it's a whole interconnected experience with the consciousness that is the air, the consciousness that is the ocean, the consciousness of the moon and the sun and the day, and the birds and the animals in there, and gravity, you know, and the ether, these other things that clearly holds weight and casts an impact, right, on our earth, but that we don't control, that we don't completely understand, that us on an individual level we don't influence, right? We have no choice but to ride the tide, ride the waves, go with the season, go with the flow, right? There's a reason for those phrases, that they ring so true, and that they are so general, vague, and easily applied to every setting and place, you know? It's not that they are common in a worthless sense at all. It's kind of the reverse. It's kind of the actual opposite of that. And it's so funny. I won't get too much into that right now, but this is another thing, the great inversions and reversals of information and of belief systems and quote unquote truths. And this has to do a lot with spiritual bypassing, right? Because certain things, certain truths, in the matrix, they get flipped onto their head. And it's because it's a reflected, mirrored image, a reversal, it holds that same frequency or vibe of truth. You know, it rings truth to us when we see it. We know something's off about it, but perhaps we don't realize the inversion of it. Perhaps we don't see it, that the image is flipped upside down on its head, because the image is complete. The image is there. It fits together perfectly. We don't see cracks and crevices. We don't see, you know, problems with it, because our mind isn't saying, hey, the whole image itself is upside down. Something's wrong. We just do this. We stand on our heads and say, oh, what? I must be wrong. Right? And that metaphor is a beautiful understanding, actually, and working of what spiritual bypassing really is. It's that standing on your head and then telling everybody you're upright, and that picture is such truth, and it's truth because you see it now. Everybody else, go stand on your heads, and you'll get the truth too. You'll see the picture the right way. When we do this, inside our hearts, especially for people who are awake, I mean, people who are asleep, it can be a whole different conversation. People with less conscious awareness, you know, and I'm not going to speak about that, because the concept of spiritual bypassing has to do with those of us who connect already with spirituality, or connect to our spirit. And so this type of working is I'm just going to be kind of focused in on that fact. So when we do the standing on our heads, and we're going along with the lie, we're making the lie true, right? We're making that image right, clear and upright as the way that it's supposed to be, that we feel truth is, by standing ourselves on our head to see that image, right? Now, when we do that, we have alarm bells going off. Our heart is like, hey, I can't pump blood that great when you're upside down, you know? Design's meant to pump this way, you know, with the flow, the buoyancy, the densities here that hold you into place. You know, it's not correct for our anatomy and physiology to be up on our heads. It's causing a lot of problems, right? Causing health problems, causing emotional problems, energetic problems, metaphysical problems, right? So there's like alarm bells going off. But the bypassing part of it, right? The lying of it is when we just say, hey, shut up down there. You're wrong. Look at that picture out there. And it looks perfect. How could you tell me that's wrong? Or, you know, it can also be as subtle as, heart down there, no, you're wrong. Anatomy and physiology isn't created that way. You don't have a deeper understanding. You're stupid. You're not smart enough. You're not intelligent or connected enough or good enough or worthy enough to know this is the right way. And so fix yourself, fix your anatomy, change it, you know, and then we get the heart organ gets confused and starts to wonder if that's really how it's supposed to pump blood, and perhaps it's conscious infinite intelligence within the body of your layering, right? It starts to make changes in the mechanisms. It starts to work differently. We have adaptation functions that change how blood flows, and all of a sudden, you know, we see actual physiological changes happening because you're forcing this lie on yourself. And then, say in the same metaphor, you start to lose feeling in your feet. You start to lose feeling in your toes, you know, because you're upside down and the blood just can't make it up there. You know, it's not going to happen. No matter what kind of things you try to happen, it's not going to happen. Another layer can happen to where you're in a lot of pain. You feel a lot of pain in your feet, right? They're losing oxygen. They're losing circulation. The tissues, you know, are starting to die. You know, necrosis and all these things happen when you don't have nutrients and fresh air and blood and stuff, information, even in love, passing to your feet and toes, right? To all the cells and everything down there. Even the bones, right? The bones are so important that they hold stem cells, they hold marrow, they hold these important, really, really crucial functions to health and wellness inside there. And so they are dying while you're upside down and doing this lies and these spiritual bypassing. And it gets deeper because now, instead of just flipping yourself back upright, shaking your legs out and saying you were wrong and looking back at that picture and wondering what the F is wrong with the picture because you can't align with it, you can't stand and stare at it forever like you're supposed to, like you're supposed to stare at art and just love it and be able to look as long as you'd like. When it's upside down and you're on your head, you're really constricted, right? Instead of doing that kind of thing, even deeper spiritual bypassing will happen, where you'll blame yourself, blame your stupid feet, blame your bad heart for not learning how to do it that way, or completely ignore the pain and shut it off. And then all of a sudden, you know, your toes are turning black and you're going to chop them off to even survive that. These, you know, these are metaphorical examples. And I hope that people are picking them up and understanding what I'm talking about. But think of all the excuses, all of the reasonings. They're individual and they're never ending about what you could tell yourself while you're on your head staring at this art to try to talk your body into, talk your emotions, talk your spiritual body, even your physical, logical, frenetic mind, right? To why this is correct, why it can only be seen this way, and why you're wrong, and also maybe I don't need my feet. Well, I don't need my legs. Well, I don't. You know, it's an endless thing when we start to really look at what it entails. So with all that kind of said, and with understanding the roundabout kind of way about spiritual bypassing, to get down to, you know, the brass tacks of it, it's lying to yourself. You know, we all do this in different ways all the time. This is why light and shadow work is so important, and this is why I talk about it a lot, and I call us energy alchemists, because that's really what we're doing, shuffling around energy, seeking, balancing, you know, ups and downs, and going through all of these things in order to grow, and in order to have more a more variety to make choices and to think about, and to be, you know, gain conscious awareness is such a wonderful word to use this function, I feel. And when we are spiritual bypassing, it's kind of like we're on the escalator to nowhere, and it's like you feel like things might be working, you kind of fake it, you're riding it, but you're never going anywhere, you know, like a treadmill. And a lot of times what's happening is this escalator, this treadmill kind of thing, is right next to the real path, right next to the real stairs. And you might see people going up the stairs and getting somewhere. Or you might see just joggers just going by, just enjoying their jog, and they're gone. And they're off on something new. But you're stuck. And you're on the same thing. You're on the same escalator. You're on the same path. You're never really getting anywhere. Because you're taking the easy way out. And you are, you know, lying to yourself about whatever it is to comfort yourself, and to put up a mask of false progress, of false superiority, of false spirituality or connection or insights, whatever the case might be, because we go through these in many different ways, you know. But in the mainstream, and what I really want to talk about for the episode for comprehending consciousness, is more of the issue that we're seeing in the mainstream, and the fact that this is being promoted out to us really strongly. And I think, like I was talking about riding the waves and the seasons and all of that, I think within the real ascension of humanity and the real path of Mother Earth and the new Earth and all of these, you know, the transition and graduation up for fourth density is upon us. And it's real, and there's a real truth and a wave to ride, and the inversions, the negative, those who control the image on its head, right? The literal archons, the negative alignment, the negative systems. They recognize the tide, they know it, but they want to ride it to their advantage. And so, of course, now they plaster out all of these kind of images of, oh, be careful, you're spiritual bypassing. Oh, are you spiritual bypassing? This person is. Don't listen to that person because they are. And don't listen to them because they are, but I'm not. And this person is, but I'm not. And you'll see these figureheads in the communities, you know, the ones that have a platform, kind of doing this and orchestrating this kind of flushing out of falsities, but when in fact they have the largest mask on of all, and it's kind of the Pied Piper, with a behind the scenes orchestration taking place with an underlying purpose for that negative agenda, and for the archons to kind of you know, fuel and corral the masses into this, keeping them into the energetic soup of negativity that they enjoy and that they need, and to feed their systems and themselves, right? So it's really important for them to kind of hijack the true cleansing, the true reality of spirituality, and the realness of truth and lies, and to confuse it even more, and to cast more shading and shadows, to get more granulated gray in there, to confuse and get us to picking at the nuances in between and never seeing it for what it is, black and white, and making the choice to be honest and transparent, making the choice to seek positive for yourself. Because all of us, we know this, and so many of these platform people who are bringing this up to the surface for all of us to look at. It's not for me or any of us to cast judgment as to whether they are being honest or not. Use your own truth meter in your heart to sense that or not. And with whether or not you sense that distortions or you resonate with truth, untangle those things, those pieces, even from the people. Don't cast them and the ideas aside and say, oh, well, that person, I sense a lie from them, or they definitely lied about this, so throw the baby out with the bathwater and say they're evil, they're bad people, they're liars, don't bother with them. Or even worse, spend your energy pointing out those things about those people, making videos or blogs or comments or trolling, or trying to make others see what you see about that person. That in itself is your whole other underlying form of negativity, control mechanisms. It's wasting time. It's spinning wheels for the negative matrix. In itself, it's spiritual bypassing at a point. I like the term liar loops, and I really feel like it resonates with the same thing that people are saying about spiritual bypassing. But I like the reference of liar loops better because it doesn't have an undertone of spiritual superiority, or like this upward false impression of a linear sequential steps where you get over to the next and you're different. Because I don't personally resonate with that at all. I don't think that's how it works. And I think when I use the term liar loops, it brings it down to a more personal level. It brings it down to more of a reality base, and even ties into 3D more, so that we can do working of real clearing of the lies that chain us down to 3D. And chain our souls, chain our shadow, all these different aspects of ourselves, they can have their own little loops that they get trapped in. And also, it helps to understand the programming loops, and it helps to understand the slave model and the tyrant template that I talk so much about. If you're brand new to my channel and you haven't heard about those, I will put some links to my BitChute series on the negative agenda, especially if you're finding this on YouTube, because I generally don't kind of talk about this kind of stuff on YouTube. But yeah, these, I'll put the links so that you can learn more about what I'm talking about, hear more about liar loops and the ways that we do these things, and how to get off, stay on your own highway and start ignoring false exits and take the right ones, right? How do you do that? Well, by listening to your heart. Same way that we don't worry about spiritual bypassing. We don't let it affect us, because at the end of the day, if you're honest with yourself, if you can look at yourself in the mirror every day in your own eyes and say, I love you, I'm doing my best, I see you for what you are, your faults and your positives, and I love them, and we're working on them, and we're better and better every day. The better it gets, the better it gets. I love that. Teal Swan says that all the time, and for what she is, she's a figurehead on a pedestal as well, and I'm not casting judgment. I'm not saying that to put her in a negative light or a positive light. I have nothing but love for her. I've gotten so many nuggets of truth from her words, and for many years before she even became more of what she is. She's very popular these days. But it's important, and she says the same thing. We have to be honest and transparent with ourselves, seeking to heal our own shadows, seeking to find out why we're telling lies, what those lies are about, why we're tangled up in them, why we can't be honest with ourselves. And that's the real way through. That's the real path. And you'll never get caught up. You'll never be looping and lying to yourself and putting on a fake mask of positivity and promoting things that make you feel false. If you're honest with yourself, it's really cut and dry. So that's another reason I'm going to close with this here, because I try to keep these videos quick. But this staying truthful with yourself, it's the simplest way that I can express, the key to success, really. Because at every layer and at every different understanding, always through life, we are, quote unquote, asleep, blind, lying to, uneducated, ignorant, unaware of things. If you think that you're aware of everything within this universe, well, you're on a bigger liar loop than I can even grasp in this video right now. The first and most crucial step, just like the first step with addiction, is admitting you have a mistake, is admitting you have a problem, or you made a mistake or whatever. The first step to enlightenment, the first step to spiritual growth, to finding yourself, is admitting that you know nothing and you will never know it all. Release that. Release the need to. Release the stigmas that come with not knowing certain things. Because we are all always asleep or unaware of something out there, or many things. Infinite amounts of possibilities out there that we're just not consciously aware of. And when you can accept that and say that with comfortability, you won't find, or you'll find less reasons to lie about things, reasons to disguise things, reasons to promote yourself as knowing more than you do, or promote yourself as feeling some way that you don't really. You'll feel less and less urges to do that kind of stuff because you'll be able to relax into your own naivety, your own inner child essence, to where the world around us is a curious miracle, to where adventure, you're met with adventure every day that you wake up. It's new. It could be anything. Anything could happen. Every day can be the first day of summer vacation, if for your inner child, right? If you choose it, and if you choose honest and transparency, and to confront things as they pop up for what they are, as you see them. It's not to say that you see the truth, or that you will ever be confronted with something and see all the truths at once. It's not even about that. It's just about seeing what you see at that moment, addressing it, examining it, assessing, accepting, right? And then moving on to the next thing that approaches. That's it. That's all there is. And so if you see other people out there who are promoting an end line, an end goal, saying you do X, Y, and Z, you hum this way, you do these chants, say this mantra, do these, certain meditations or whatever, and you're going to get here. You're going to get this. You're going to have this exit. You're going to be enlightened. You're going to be up on a pedestal, or, take these, whatever, certain medicinal things and certain protocols, say, with there's just so many things. I'm not going to try to take them all, But whenever we see people promoting strict regimen of sorts, it is always so important to draw back and to really ask yourself, what kind of end goal are they promoting? Because if it's something that seems to be too good to be true, or too quick, or a shortcut, or a cheat, then you should probably know that there's a lot of liar loops going on in there. There's huge spiritual bypassing happening. So I guess I did talk way longer than I wanted to for this video, but it is such a large topic, and I do feel like it's presented everywhere out in the collective right now, and so many people are addressing it honestly. So many people are, presenting falsities, like I mentioned, and so it's very chaotic and confusing out there. And when that happens, it's a huge red flag for all of us to cut out the static and to go flip that lens and look inwards for your answers. Look inwards for clarity. Ask yourself what you're lying about. Why? Go and do those things that you have an influence and impact over with your own life that creates your reality. And forget about those external displays, the portrayals, the quick fixes, the band-aids, the answers, the one solution, the miracles, those quick fixes are not, they're not valid, really. And I don't want to discourage anybody, or to make anybody feel sad or disappointed or alone or abandoned in that. There's nothing wrong with having faith and hoping for miracles, hoping for miraculous things to happen in your life, because miraculous things do happen, most certainly. I'm not trying to say they don't. They happen on an individual level when you're in your own space, in your own little reality. They don't ever come from the external outside world. We don't actually ever get to touch or interact with that external world. Doesn't work like that. We have our direct world that we call into our inner world. And those two sacred boundaries have great permeation between them. And so I talk about this a lot too, and I'm not going to get carried away because I'm noticing I'm beyond time again. But if that does interest you, I will link below because I have talked a lot already about that in other videos. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there at a half an hour. I hope that I haven't blabbed on too much, and I hope that I have cleared some air around what I see as the major problems of being presented to us with this whole concept of spiritual bypassing. So thank you so much for listening to me this morning. I hope you have a beautiful day or evening, wherever in the world you are, whatever time it is. Sending you so much blessings and love. Thanks for witnessing my journey. Thank you for your contribution to our collective. And I really hope I've inspired you. I know I've rekindled and re-inspired myself to remain true and standing in my own truth and light. And I hope that you will seek yours and shine yours bright and beautiful. So until next time, always find me on YouTube or BitChute. I'm on Telegram and Spotify, all under A. Marie Speaks. And of course, you could always just find me directly on amariespeaks.com. So I'll catch you next time.